Yantif. You have a card in your machzor that says Baruch Hamakom. Baruch Hamakom. Overflowing is the place. We know the word Baruch. It's the opening word of most of the extraordinary captions that we give to moments of our lives, to moments that fill and fulfill a responsibility, to moments that overflow. And indeed, overflowing, I'm saying to you, I'm suggesting to you that this is a very strong resonance of the word Baruch. Blessed doesn't quite make it. It's kind of thin soup. Overflowing. Baruch Hamakom. Overflowing is the place. Can a place be overflowing? A place overflowing with meaning? I suggest that it can. And in this way, in this moment, I want to pick up on what I said to you 2 years ago. Do you remember? I'm sure you remember. Don't raise your hand if you remember. It was Ne'ilah time, and Rabbi Graber asked me if I would say something in the closing moments of the old format of the synagogue about why we did particular things and why they were set up the way they were set up and how they came to be that way, because many people who come to Bethel think that it's always been that way. Since the beginning of time, since Moses and the tablets came down, written somewhere on the margin was this particular custom and that particular custom for this place and that place. But it wasn't so. And I had a chance to tell you something about how it is that we had constructed this place and the ritual that fills it and that fulfills it and that shapes it and that is shaped by it. And it is that shaping and being shaped by, that ever expanding, the possibility of expanding even within a space that is defined. That's the miracle of beracha. That's the miracle of overflow in that sense. Baruch Hamakom. The place overflows, yes. This place overflows. I remember at that point telling you about my favorite piece of wood on the bima. You remember? Do you remember where it was? A piece of wood on the floorboard molding of what used to be the ark that is now the memorial board. You know, you're just going to sit there and wonder whether he can keep this on or not. So, there's the answer. A piece of wood on the floorboard molding with a beautiful wavy texture to it. And I thought, this is divine presence. Haro'eh ve'eno nir'eh. That which sees and is not seen. So unobtrusive. So beautiful, a small piece of wood floating there. Certainly solid and fixed there, but floating there nonetheless. And to me, that piece of wood, if I could put myself into the waves of that piece of wood, that's exactly what I would do. It saw everything. And I envied that piece of wood, and I didn't keep track of it purposely. I suppose if I had asked those people concerned with the construction, with the deconstruction and the reconstruction of the synagogue, maybe I could have had that piece of wood, but it wouldn't have been the same. It needed to be where it was, and now it is wherever the universe needs for it to be. But it's not there anymore, and you notice the ark is not there. The ark is not there anymore. And yet, of course, it still is there. For me, it still is there. And I can still see myself coming out of the library, what was then the library a long time ago, coming in before Rosh Hashanah, all of the malachim, all of the angels who come here and polish and press and tuck and this and set up and put up the curtains, and they had all done their work. Most of them had done their work. But I walked into the library one morning, or from the library to the sanctuary one morning. The sun was coming through the window over here, and there was a beautiful woman sitting, tenderly sitting on the bima, on a small stool with a wicker sewing basket by her side. Her name was Irma. Maybe you remember Irma. She was not a member of the synagogue terribly long, but she cared deeply about the synagogue. And there she was, hemming up the bottom of the curtain. It had come out. It had come down. And she was sitting there all heather and gray and purple and light and wondrous and beautiful, just hunched over with such love and such care, with the hem of the garment in her hands. And I backed away because it was not a scene on which I wanted to intrude. So I left the library and I spent the time thinking about her and wishing that I was floating on that little piece of wood that was still watching her from the corner of the ark. I kept thinking, Vishulav mele'im et ha'hichal. Isaiah chapter 6, the vision in the temple. The hem of the divine garment kept filling and filling and filling and billowing. As ever much space as there was to fill, this garment was filling it, gauzy, and you could see through it, smoky, but it was filling. Vishulav mele'im et ha'hichal, vishulea mele'im et ha'hichal. And her skirts and her hems also filling the sanctuary. That in my mind is what I see. And I mention that vision to you not only because I can still see it, and I can still see it in that place, for which I want to say, Baruch HaMakom, that place is overflowing. Are you with me? That place is overflowing. But it brought me to the language of Isaiah. And why? Because I'm so learned. Because the words are always on my lips. No. But because I was here in this place. And this is a place where I come, and I think that this is a place where you come, and it's a place where we come, where we can tune our ears to that language. We don't have it with us all the time. But this time of the year, we come here to tune our ear to a certain kind of language so that we can use it, and we can be used by it. We can be employed by it. We can employ it and we can be employed by it through the rest of our lives, through the rest of our year, and it can be reinforced the times when we are here and when we need it. And when we're feeling that kind of aspiration, that is to say breathing towards, that we need to feel when we think about what the life of a synagogue is for us. It's about the language. Baruch, it's overflowing. This place is overflowing. It's overflowing with the language. It's overflowing with the experiences. It's overflowing with Irma. It's overflowing right there. And now it's a memorial board. And it's not an ark. Used to be an ark, do you remember? Many of you? Some of you don't remember. Maybe some of you have not been here before. But it used to be an ark. The Torahs used to be there. But the Torahs are still there. I can see that they're still there. And the Torah is the thing itself, and it is also the metaphor. It is where the meta meets the for, as I like to say. And a memorial board with names of people who lived their lives well and whose lives we honor and hold in high esteem, that is no less a Torah than the written Torah. It is still an ark. Vayihi bin soah Aaron. Kuma Adonai v'yafutzu. Stand up for us, O Lord, and scatter those elements in the world that would oppose us. Let us be used by the help. Let us make use of the help of those people and those names. The Torah is really, really still there. But now the Torahs are kept over here. Oh, wait a minute. A year or so ago, wasn't that just a wall? It was a wall, and there was an aisle. We'll soon forget it. And there was an aisle just here. But you know what? Even then, it wasn't a wall. Even then, it wasn't just a wall. Every Simchas Torah, when we would make our hakafah, our procession around the sanctuary, we would sing songs. And rather than have lots of song sheets to handle, do you remember? I made song sheets out of real sheets. They were bed sheets. They were white queen-size sheets. And I would write the words to songs on these sheets with markers. And we would climb up on ladders, even those of us who didn't like ladders. And we would hang them. And right there where the ark is, there was a song sheet. It was a queen-size, not fitted song sheet that said, Mi pi el yivorach Yisrael, with all of the lyrics of that piyut, of that song. And it was there because that was the biggest wall that we had, and that was Earl Siegel's favorite song. So, Mi pi el, it was right there. Is that the ark? Yes, of course it's the ark. It's not the ark. This is a love song to Earl Siegel. This is a love song to Gladys's late husband. It's a reminiscence of Simchat Torah in years past. Baruch hamakom, Baruch hamakom. It overflows, doesn't it? Baruch hamakom. In the ancient world, makom meant place, for sure, for certain. But it also meant, for the rabbis, it meant God. It was a way of talking about God, especially once hamakom, once the place was destroyed, which is to say, the temple. And we needed a place. Where did holiness take place? Where could it possibly take place? It took place where you were. The place that overflowed was the place inside itself and beyond itself that you made a connection for you in an extraordinary high and deep way. Hamakom, blessed be the place. And sometimes we say that, Baruch hamakom. We say it in the Haggadah, we say it a number of times. Baruch hamakom. Overflowing is the place. Overflowing is the place with a capital P. Overflowing is divine presence. It appears in this morning's Torah reading, that word, makom. What a beautiful word, makom. I think it's a beautiful word. My ear is tuned to it. In part, I love it because it's a place, it's a real place, and it's also a grounded place where divine presence is felt, and it's also the most abstract idea of God. And I love it because it's a masculine word with a feminine plural. And as we try to figure out how to deal with our issues of language, with Hebrew, which is a gorgeous language and beautifully and helplessly gendered, how do we create a language that somehow is more in keeping with another set of gender values and so on? I don't know the answer to the question, but I have a feeling that a word like makom, that sometimes you can't really, if you don't know it, you can't exactly tell by hearing it, mekomot. It's a feminine plural. Anyway, that's a subject for another time, but I love the word. I love the word. I love the word. I love learning about the word. And we as a community love filling the space not only with prayer, but also filling this space with learning. So the library door through which I passed, and I saw Irma standing on the sitting so carefully and beautifully, tending to the hem of the garment, as it were, on the bima. That library door isn't there anymore, but that space is still dedicated to learning. And it's been dedicated in a very special way, that open space there that has handsome glass doors that will slide. And it is a space that is dedicated, I am honored to say, to me. Writing not only me, and I say it not in order to brag, but I say it because this is what happens in community. When someone comes, when a rabbi comes who makes an argument for a certain way of life, for a certain way of thinking through something, for a certain way of approaching how it is that we pray or how it is that we learn, and a community responds, somehow that gets written really virtually, sometimes actually, into the blueprint of the building. And there is a Beit Midrash dedicated by gorgeous and wondrous friends of mine. We lived so high on the night of that dedication. And then, really, a handful of days later, celebrated the tragic loss of one of them, Charlie, whose death we found out about on Shabbos morning. It was confirmed for us on Shabbos morning. And we had just moved into this space. It was still under warranty. You know, we had done nothing but celebrate in this space. And here we were living with a loss in the community that was an extraordinary loss. A profound loss, touching really each one of the people in the sanctuary, coming to terms with it just then, at that moment. And Rabbi Graber, thanks to Rabbi Graber, who invited me to say something at the end of the service, and I said, this is what we do. This is how we live our lives. Sometimes it's Shabbos, and sometimes people die on Shabbos. And sometimes we get bad news on Shabbos, and what are you supposed to say to somebody? It's Shabbos. It's Shabbos. Can you grieve as well as say Good Shabbos? Of course. How do you do that? I don't know. But I know you have to, and I know that you can. And I know that this building contains it. And I know that to say Baruch HaMakom, that this place overflows, is exactly right. And I know that to say HaMakom Yinachem, which is another way that we use HaMakom, HaMakom Yinachem, may the place give you comfort, is right too. The place being God, okay, that's pretty abstract and not much of a challenge. But how about the place where you happen to be right now? Hamakom Yenachem. Let this place give you comfort. This place gives me the comfort of being able to say, I'm grieving, I'm mourning, I'm uncomfortable here. I am existentially, my body wants to be someplace else. It wants to wink out. It wants to just disappear into the universe. I don't want to live with this. And yet here we are living with it, and it's grounded. Baruch Hamakom. Hamakom Yenachem. Overflowing is the place. And let the place offer you some comfort. Because Shiva's going to be over, and you're going to go back to work, and you're going to need comfort from that place where you happen to be also. So let Hamakom be God, but let it also be the place where it is. The place where you are, I should say. The place where you happen to be. This is a way that we conspire to make meaning for ourselves. Let me go to the parashah for just a moment. The parashah says, God says to Abraham, Lech lechem el eretz ha-Moriah, go to the land of Moriah, and offer your son up upon one of the mountains of which I will tell you. And then we hear, Vayisa et einav, he raised his eyes, Vayar et hamakom merachok, and he saw the place afar off. And the rabbis want to know, how did he know? God, we don't have anything in the narrative where God says to him, that's the place. How does he know? Rashi says, bringing an ancient rabbinic tradition, Anan kashur alav. He scanned to the horizon, and there was one peak where there was a cloud that was covering the mountain. And that's where he went. But was that the place? I'm intrigued by the possibility that it was the place because Abraham chose it to be the place. I'm intrigued by the possibility that it's the place not because God said that's the place, but because he chose the place. Just like I chose the place in 1978. Just like you chose the place when you chose the place. Just like you chose the place. We'll get to you in a minute. And now the place is so much more, so much bigger. And yet what overflows continues to overflow, and it fills everything and fulfills everything. V'shulav male'im et haichal. The hem of the garment fills the whole space. And even more than used to be the space. The other morning, this past Thursday morning, I davened from way back there. I went to the last seats. I've been doing that for years. Bring my talis and tefillin, bring my shofar oftentimes. This year I didn't. But go to the last seat because I want to be able to pray in the last seat and see what it looks like looking all the way up. Now with this new configuration, it's not so far. All the way up is not so far. And I celebrated that. It was extraordinary. And I loved it. And then I loved because I was into this strange way of thinking about this place in different phases, in different time zones, in different eras, and all being the same place and also different, that I realized that where I was sitting never used to be inside the building. There was a place in a lovely little courtyard here where I used to like to sit on Rosh Hashanah and prop the door open. It was wonderful. It's a toilet now. Okay, it's useful. But it's not the same, But it's okay. Anyway, there I was outside, and I looked over here, and I thought, Vayisa et einav. He lifted his eyes. Vayar et hamakom merachok. And he saw the place from afar off. But it wasn't as far off as it used to be. And that was worth celebrating. Now we can get back to you for just a moment. I haven't looked at my watch. I wore a watch that I haven't looked at it even one time since I started. I have no idea how much of your Musaf time I'm taking. But, you know. It's okay because you're a rookie. But as I look over there to the sanctuary that was, I see the place where Rabbi Graber sat when he first came here. He didn't come here as a candidate. He came here as a mourner because a friend of his had died tragically, young and tragically. And he called me up, and I didn't know him, and he said, what is there Shabbos-wise in Durham, and where is it, and so on, and we got some things straight. And I didn't see him on Friday, which was the day of the funeral, but Shabbos morning he came. And I didn't see him before I heard him. Because I heard somebody, and everybody here can sing, but I heard somebody who could really sing. I mean, who had a kind of a different level of intensity than I had heard before. So I can still see that space. I won't tell you the story of how he came. That can be for another time. It's a wonderful story. But it's not for now. But the thing for now is, what did he see in this place? What did he feel in this place that made him want to apply for the job when the job came open, which was not that much after his visit? But he saw something. He went back to LA, and we went back to a beautiful job and a wonderful, busy life as the director of Camp Ramah in California, and a family well ensconced in the city. And yet he had seen something. Vayisat einav, and there in California, I would say, Vayisat einav, he lifted his eyes, Vayarat hamakom merachuk, and he saw the place afar off. And what was the place? The place was here. There was something about it. I don't know. Baruch hamakom, there was bracha here. Baruch hamakom, overflowing. That place is overflowing. And so here you are, you know, from a moment of hamakom yenachem, from a moment of may the place where you are give you comfort for your loss, your first visit, to Baruch HaMakom. And now we say Baruch HaMakom because you're here and have been for 10 years. And this whole bracha is in very large measure because of him. Because this is not something that I could have done. This kind of project, this kind of structure, no. Mm-mm. This kind of what do I want to say? Linear. Linear project. No, it's not for me. I sat here in this sanctuary with a very beloved member of the congregation one day, a person whom I had known since I first came here, Henry. And I am using names. All of these people are deceased, but I am using names. Henry said to me, "Steve, I love you, but I have to leave Bethel. This is not a place for me. It's too much Hebrew. I'm not comfortable with the Hebrew. The ritual's not what I'm used to. And frankly, you're not a politically active enough person for me. I need a rabbi who's more politically active, who's more engaged in the community, like Rabbi Graber." He didn't mention him by name in those days. He didn't mention him by name. I need somebody who's more active in the community, but I love you. And I said to him, "Henry, I hope that you find a place where you're comfortable. And I hope that you also find a place where you're comfortable being uncomfortable. Because sometimes we're uncomfortable here. Because sometimes we have to mourn in this place as well as laugh in this place. And sometimes it's the same time. And sometimes there are deep and high complexities that need to be enacted, that need to be engaged before we can get really to this level and be at this light and airy level in our hearts and in our heads. And you're the one who could do that and not me. And Henry left that day and said, Steve, I love you, and I'm leaving, and I want you to bury me. And for decades, every time he saw me, he would say, Steve, I want you to bury me. And I would say, Henry, there's really nothing more that I would enjoy than... It didn't come to pass. He died on the West Coast. His memory is a blessing, and it lives here. And Earl's memory is here, and Irma's memory is here, and Charlie's memory is here, and our memories are here. And it is complicated. It is a complicated business. And I must say that this past Shabbat, while I was thinking about this theme, something else occurred to me, which was that if I pull my tallis up over my head, oh, that solves everything. Yeah. The Amidah, that just solves everything. I don't get dizzy anymore. Everything becomes one thing. Every place becomes one place. Everything becomes the same bracha. And I invite you to think about it too, and I invite you to do it. In just a moment, we're going to move to a piyut that says, a piyut from the 6th century perhaps, 5th, 6th, 7th century, by a great poet called Yanai, who says, V'chol ma'aminim, everybody believes. Well, then all of these things you'll see. Do you believe those things? I don't know. But it is a pastiche, it is a collage of what it is that people believe. All of those things fill a sanctuary. All of those things and even more. Baruch HaMakom, the place where holiness takes place, overflows. Whether it's Yanai's sanctuary then, whether it's us right now singing the words that he wrote for his own sanctuary and his own song, everything is part of the same overflowing bracha. The song sheet and the ark and the outside that is now inside and the memorial board that is still the Torah and the Beit Midrash that is still the opening between learning and prayer and will for always be that, and the opening of the sanctuary where hospitality takes place. All of that together. And if you haven't yet found your place here in this place, I invite you to be sought by it. I was going to say invite you to look for it, but let me not say that. I invite you to be sought by it. You will be taken by something, by some piece of it. And if you pull your tallis up over your head, I assure you all of those problems will go away and everything becomes one. But it's not just that. Sometimes it can happen with a melody, especially if we close our eyes. So Yanai before us and behind us. Try it, you'll see. Close your eyes. Oh, la, la, la. Oh, la, la, la. Oh, la, la, la. La, la, la. Now everything becomes one. Baruch HaMakom, v'HaMakom mitbarech. Overflowing is the place. Overflowing.